Hi, this is Betsy Lafferty. Welcome to my EDL 853 case study. Let's first do a little bit of a summary of the case. Miguel Hernandez was the quarterback and also excellent student. He had been paralyzed from one of the football games, and upon returning to school, he was in a wheelchair and he was denied access to his biology class because the room could not accommodate his wheelchair. Like I said, he was injured in one of the last football games of the season. He really fought hard to get better and to rehabilitate, to keep up on his studies, and was really excited to return to school. When he was ready, his parents set up a meeting with Miss Guzman, the counselor, and they discussed what classes Miguel would need and what accommodations he would be needing to be successful when he returned. On the first day of school, he was asked to meet with Miss Guzman unexpectedly, and he found out that his schedule had been changed and he was no longer in biology but another class that would fulfill the graduating requirement. However, Miguel needed the biology for the college that he was choosing to attend in the fall. Upon hearing this, Mr. and Mrs. Hernandez immediately set up a meeting with the school principal, me, to discuss the change and the lack of notice. In the meeting, they also brought a lawyer to discuss Miguel's rights under Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 and his right to FAPE. I now, as a principal, need to determine the best way to meet Miguel's needs and afford him the education that he deserves. All right, so legal and ethical issues in this case. Miguel is being harmed because without this biology class, he cannot have the needed prerequisites for the college he is choosing to attend. It also, by not allowing him to take this biology class, we are not complying with Section 504, and also that says that students should have a free and appropriate education, so it is not in compliance. Changing Miguel's schedule without first contacting the special ed team or his parents shows really a lack of transparency and a lack of understanding regarding the law. And by not attempting to make the accommodations for Miguel to stay in biology class, it has become a discriminatory issue. If I had to sum it up in one sentence, I would say Miguel Hernandez was denied access to a biology class due to the classroom being non-accessible to his wheelchair, and because of these actions, his parents have brought legal counsel to ensure his rights are being upheld under Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. So looking at the facts, who are the people involved? Of course, Miguel, he's the main player in this. He is the football player and also student who is being affected. Mr. and Mr. Hernandez are his parents, and they are fighting for his rights. Ms. Guzman is the school counselor who is making some of these decisions about his schooling. Of course, Mrs. Lafferty, that's myself. I would be the high school principal. Mr. Howard Carey is the lawyer representing the Hernandezes. And then I also say the people, the supportive community are also involved, because if they find out about this, that support might change. Where is this taking place? It's at Nottingham High School. It serves 3,200 students approximately. The high school is the central hub of activity for the community of Dover. Although many improvements have been made, approximately a quarter of the buildings have no updates since the 50s when the school was built, and the high school is also well known for both its academics and sports excellence. Some of the programs here are the district houses 6 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, and then the 1 high school. It is a public school system. It mentions about how it has a great staff that's having great programs at all levels, and then the state directory also labels Nottingham High School as outstanding in both academics and athletics. So let's do a little review. This situation could be really damaging, I think, for the school district's reputation. The administration could also get a black eye, and the staff could be looked down upon if accommodations aren't made for Miguel. I think administrators, students, teachers, the parents, everyone is a stakeholder in this instance. Miguel and children with disabilities are the largest stakeholders because they are entitled to an education just the same as their peers. I don't think that all relevant stakeholders were contacted in this case. When these changes were made, obviously Miguel and his parents had no idea. And also, I am unsure if the special education team was made aware or if Ms. Guzman just made these changes on her own. And then some questions I'd like to know is I want to know if Ms. Guzman acted on her own. Maybe she didn't understand the law, or did she contact the special education staff when making this call? And I'm also curious why she did not contact parents first and just decided to contact Miguel on the first day of school. Let's look at our options and consequences. So option one would be kind of just make no changes to his schedule. Keep it how it is. Leave him out of biology since the room's not accessible. I mean, there's some big consequences for this. We're not in compliance with FAPE, with Section 504. It would be a discriminatory issue, and the school could face both litigation and possibly a bad reputation. Maybe the most harsh option could be to avoid the litigation and to show how serious we were. We could fire Ms. Guzman for her poor decision making, automatically put Miguel back in, and then just have him start taking the class. Some consequences of this choice is we'd be down a staff member. It really doesn't teach any lesson or get to the bottom of the problem. Of course, Miguel does get back in his biology class, but maybe his needs can't be met in that classroom, and changes do need to be made in order for him to have the best education he needs. Option three would be to let Mr. and Mrs. Hernandez and their lawyer know right away this issue will be taken care of, and Miguel will have the opportunity to take biology. We just need to get it all figured out. I think this shows the parents that we are committed. Even though we maybe made a mistake or a mistake was made, we are committed to just fixing that and getting Miguel the education and classes he needs. Option four could be meet with Ms. Guzman, special education team, and myself to determine where exactly the breakdown in communication occurred. And then most importantly, create a plan for Miguel as a team that allows for the proper accommodations for him to take biology or any other classes. The consequences of this would really to be creating a team feeling, building trust between all parties, all stakeholders involved. It would also show us maybe where the breakdown happened, and hopefully that would never happen again, knowing this information. A fifth option would be to meet with Ms. Guzman personally, discuss what happened, where the breakdown in communication happened, and what her thinking process was. I think the consequences of this could us be understanding the process better, us understanding what processes we need to put into place to make sure it doesn't happen. I think Ms. Guzman would also maybe feel supported. Maybe she needs education about the laws and guidelines, and so I think this could really make us stronger as a school and team. And then option six would be meet with the administrators, counselor, and special education team to discuss new protocol and chain of command in this case, so we know exactly what steps need to be followed for future situations like this. I think by creating this new protocol and knowing the proper flow of command for information, it'll strengthen our school, it'll help all students get the education they need, and kids won't fall through the cracks. So if we evaluate those options, option number one would be making no changes. The pros, which it'd be easiest, I guess. I mean, there's nothing else we'd have to do. However, the cons are pretty big. There's potential litigation. Miguel does not get the education he needs, and the school loses their good reputation and standing. Option two, to avoid it, firing Ms. Guzman and then getting Miguel back in. Some of the pros would take care of the issue promptly. Miguel would get the education he deserves, and we would avoid litigation. However, some of the cons, I believe, is we'd have to find a new counselor, and it really doesn't address the communication breakdown or fix our problem. It's just kind of a Band-Aid. If we look at option three, where we let Mr. and Mrs. Hernandez know it will be fixed right away, our pros is maybe it helps save the reputation of the school and it builds some trust. Miguel would get the class he needs, and we would be able to work together. Some of the cons are it might be a little bit vague, but hopefully with other steps in place that could be helped. Option 4 was when we meet as a team to discuss where the breakdown in communication occurred and then create a specialized plan for Miguel with all parties involved. Some of the pros to this option would be having the team together will help us make better decisions as a whole. It'll create a stronger protocol, and a line of communication between all parties will be formed, and that will help better decisions be made and everyone feel like they had a stake in it. Cons, I really don't think there's any cons. I mean, possibly it might be hard to get the meeting together, but other than that, I think this is a strong option. Option number 5 was meeting with the counselor, Ms. Guzman, to discuss this situation. I think some of the pros to this option would be Ms. Guzman would feel supported even though she maybe made an error in judgment. We can find the flaws and fix the process, hopefully, and strengthen our school system. Some of the cons, maybe Ms. Guzman may feel singled out at first, but even though this could be a con, I think it's a necessary step. And then option 6 was meeting as a school with administrators and special education staff and counselor and coming up with new protocol and lines of communication. I really think the pros of this is all of our stakeholders are together. We are creating a unified process. Clear lines of communication are drawn and we understand what steps to take, and it really creates an atmosphere of trust that's going to help our school move forward and affect kids more positively. Some of the cons might be it might be difficult to find time in everyone's schedule, but very necessary. So what options would I choose? I think that options 3, 4, 5, and 6 would be the best in this scenario. The reason I think that this is the way to go is it allows for all of my stakeholders to be consulted and feel like they are part of the process, especially Miguel's parents. It provides a quality and adequate education for Miguel so he can get the classes he needs for his future. It follows all the guidelines and laws of Section 504 and also of FAPE. And then it sets our school up positively for the future for handling accommodation and modification cases successfully. All right, so how would I implement my plan? Step 1 is during my meeting with the Hernandez's lawyer and parents, I would let them know that our mistake will be fixed immediately, and we will schedule a follow-up meeting to discuss the changes. Then I would get a meeting together with Ms. Guzman to see how the decision to take Miguel out of biology occurred. Did she do that on her own? Did she include the special education staff? And why was it handled just letting Miguel know and not letting his parents know? So we could really talk about laws, guidelines, and the chain of command that needs to be followed. Then I would immediately set up a meeting with our entire team, including Miguel's parents, the special ed leaders and teachers, and Ms. Guzman, so that way we could develop a individualized plan to meet Miguel's needs, to know what his future needs are, and get him in all the classes and make sure that we can accommodate him and his education. Lastly, after we got Miguel in the classroom and got his plan figured out, I think it's very important to get the rest of the staff together again with administrators and come up with a step-by-step protocol and line of communication to follow if we would need to make accommodations or modifications for students. I think it's important for people, especially if they aren't really aware of all the specific laws and guidelines, if there are specific steps that they need to follow, then hopefully other kiddos or mistakes won't happen, because we'll have lots of different people in making these decisions, and we just won't make these mistakes and possibly have this happen to our school or to our kids. So in summary, Miguel's education is number 1. We must have a comprehensive plan that meets Miguel's needs, and there must be a plan in place for our district with clear communication so everyone is involved in the decision-making process. Decisions and modifications cannot be made by just one person, and really it's important to have that atmosphere of teamwork and trust so parents in the school can work together. All right, I hope you all have a great day, and I appreciate you. Thanks.